Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach Nuff channel. In this video, we're going to look at our tops, chops, traps and slaps for NRL Fantasy in round 7. So just quickly, for those who are new to the concept, how it works is if we have a trade-in option that we like, well, we're going to think that's tops. If we have a trade-out option that's a good idea to get out of, we're going to give them the chop. If we've got a trade-in option that's probably not for the best, we're going to consider that a trap. And if we've got a trade out option that's not so good, we'll give it a slap. But we'll get stuck in the second time of recording. I accidentally forgot to hit record after discussing this, and there's a bit on today. So without further ado, we'll get into the hookers. Jaden Brayley is my top pick, just given he's back established as the starting hooker. Those sort of lowish scores from when he was playing off the bench will be out of his rolling average now. So he should generate some nice cash for us as well. And the Knights do have a pretty good run. They do have a bye the week before Origin, but then they do play the next couple of weeks after that. So very handy to cover during that time. Can do the job of our hooker during that time. Danny Levi on the chopping block, partly because he didn't quite score as well as we'd like against the Gold Coast, so his cash gen is a little bit stalled. But also we do need to get out of some of our Raider picks, given they've got the bye next weekend. And there's been lots of value there. They've been really good this year, but I think Danny Levi is one that we can start to look to get out of. Joey Lussick is our trap this week, so had more value at the start of the year when price was a bit lower and we were making cash. But one good score doesn't sort of dictate that we get on now, so we'll give that one a miss. And Jerry Marshall King is on the slap this week. So basically, if we've got Marshall King in, he did get a low score last week, but his value lies in the ability to cover around 13, 16, 19. So if you've got Marshall King, I would consider holding. I wouldn't worry about trading a Brayley and making money that way. I think Jerry Marshall King is the perfect sort of origin cover at the hooker position. And if you've got him, you just need to hold him until after that. Onto the middles, and so Xavier Willison is my top pick again this week. So the Broncos are still running with those two middle forwards only, and the two sort of hooker and back utility type players. So that sort of suggests there's some good minutes for him still. We've seen that he can score well in a PPM sense, and he will also provide good cover during the Origin period, where you'd imagine Payne Haas, Pat Carrigan will have some reduced minutes as they get through their Origin campaigns. Speaking of Origin, Tom Flegler's on the chopping block this week if you haven't already got out of the pick. So while we've talked about Marshall King is a great hold because he plays all 3 rounds, players like Flegler that are potentially going to play for Queensland, assuming he's fit, he won't play any of those rounds. He'll be playing Origin. So, given that they've also got buys in around that period, I think it's like round 14, round 18, Tom Flegler will miss a big chunk of time. So over the next 10 weeks, you're only getting 3 or 4 scores out of him. So for that reason, I think he's a safe chop option this week. On the trap list, I've gone with Adam Mariota, just in line with what I said before about the Raiders' upcoming bye. Elliot Whitehead might not be that far away. I haven't got the latest update on him, but you'd imagine if he's fit enough, he will slot straight in on that edge, and Mariota will go back to the middle rotation. And on the slap this week, I've gone with Max King. So he's named on the extended bench, and I feel like if he is available, he will slot straight back into the starting team. So don't panic on Max King. If you've got him, I think he'll be back this week, if not next week at the absolute worst. On the edge, and probably the best buy for this round, which is a bit tough after I gave him the trap last week, but Angus Crichton, played 80 minutes, played pretty good. I imagine with the way they've set up the bench this week that he'll probably continue in that 80-minute role. Even when Spencer Leniu comes back, I think he'll just slot in for White and they'll roll with those three middle forwards. Obviously, Egan Butcher can cover if needed, but I think they will use him in the middle rotation. So I think, yeah, if you're looking for a potential keeper option on the edge at a bit of value, I'm definitely thinking about bringing in Angus Crichton this week. On the chopping block is Zach Hosking, obviously injured, but also, again, we're shifting our Raiders assets if we've got them. So, Zach Hosking is one that we can move on comfortably. The trap this week, I've gone with Corey Waddell, so sort of slotting in for Ben Travojevic there in the second row. Job security is good, but I guess the issue is his upside. He's never really been a fantasy relevant player, and I don't know if getting a few more minutes on the edge will sort of help with that. And the slap this week, I guess not for the first time this season, but Brendan Piakura. So people still trading him out, even though he isn't that far away from a return. May even be as soon as next week. So if you've held him this long, it really seems silly to get out of the pick. I can see maybe some people want to go to Angus, and okay, fair enough, but I'd find another way to make that move because you'll probably want to bring Piakura back in a couple of weeks once he's back in the starting lineup for the Broncos. Onto the halves, and the top pick this week is Sean Johnson. Just going for upside at this point in the season with the halves. He's one I'm trying to bring in, but got to break the bank without, I guess, trading out one of the guns I've got there. Speaking of which, we'll skip ahead to the slap. So obviously Nathan Cleary not named again this week, but if you're like me and you've held this long, he might be another couple weeks away. So it's testing my patience. I am seriously considering just going to Sean Johnson, given Cleary will play Origin as well, so that's something to consider. Um, and I might even go against my own advice this week. But I think if you can, try to hold Nathan Cleary because you're going to want him back at some point. But on the chopping block, I've gone with Kyle Flanagan. So one of those players that has made a bit of money for us, done his job. Well, I think we can move on. And I think even though his job security has opened up a bit, I don't know if bringing in Brad Schneider is the greatest idea at this point in the season. Onto the centres, and Kale Iro once again is the top option in the centres. Named again this week, so it looks like the job security is improving, but it's never going to be 100% unless we see Talakai's name completely off the list, or if there's another injury there in the back line perhaps. But yeah, Iro still making some good cash. Looks like he can score us some points too. So yeah, feel free to get amongst it. On the chopping block, we've gone with Ben Travojevic. So as we said, out injured. Um, Probably slightly long enough, or probably long enough sort of injury that we want to, or we can't really hold him that long given the value that is available at the moment. So yeah, we'll get out of that. I guess the controversial trap this week in the centres is Bronson Cherry. And it's a little bit in line with what we talked about the Raiders. The Bulldogs do have a bye in round 9. We've already got a few assets in our team. It was like, I've got Curran, Salmon, did have Hutchinson, Jacob Carraz. So obviously we can't carry all these guys. Sam Hughes was the other one I was trying to think of. So we can't carry all these guys through the round 9 bye. And that's only going to be worse if we bring in another player at this stage. So I do like Cherry as a pick. I do think he's going to go well. I do want to bring him into my team, which I guess is sort of counterintuitive. As I said, this was a bit of a tough week to come up with some picks, and it's a little bit rushed. I'll apologise for, but there's a bit on. So essentially, I think we just have to let him go because it's not convenient. and it will cost us in other positions and obviously in a couple of weeks' time. An RTS I've got on the slap this week, so a few people getting out of him. Not sure why. He's not going that bad, I wouldn't have thought. I don't remember what he scored last week off the top of my head, but if we've brought him in, it's probably as a gun keeper type option. He's dual position, so I'm sure, given a lot of the injuries at the moment in those positions, and we can do a bit of shuffling to keep RTS. And then the wing fullbacks. So I've got Tom Chester listed currently, but we are waiting on Trey Fuller to be included in the game. So I guess that ties in with our chop this week, being the hammer. But I've got Tom Chester just because he has that job security in the centre. He is actually dual position, which is pretty handy as well. Um, the Cowboys have the great schedule, into the first Origin game, playing round 13 and 14, and they're playing well as a team. So all things pointing up for Tom Chester, but I think if Trey Fuller comes in at a cheaper price at wing fullback, I think he is the best buy this week. Um, he'll have that short-term job security given the Hammer is out injured. But also, if the Hammer comes back before Origin, you'd imagine that he'll get selected in the centres for Queensland, and Trey Fuller will come back in for another few games. And Bennett may even look to rest the Hammer in between. They do have a couple of buys, so that's probably not as likely. Um, but I think it all comes down to value. So I just left it for the time being, but definitely one to keep an eye out for. And the traps and slaps are somewhat related too. So Joey Manu scored well the last couple of weeks, yes, but that was because he was playing fullback with Tedesco missing through injury and then the concussion stand down. Tedesco's back, so if you've got Tedesco, don't trade him out. He will lose some value in the short term, but will make it back. And if you don't have Joey Manu, I think you can wait until Origin and then absolutely bring him in. He provides great cover during that period, covering for Tedesco, but that's when you're going to get the points. You're not going to get the points from last couple of weeks. You're going to pay up and probably lose some value. So that wraps it up. Nice short one, as I said. Got a bit on. This is actually the second go at recording it. Forgot to press record the first time. So, as always, if you've got any comments, feel free to add them below the video. Give us a like if you enjoy this sort of analysis. Subscribe for all the fantasy content. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.